So I wanted to have this conversation about LBU and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time today. I wanted to take a look at LBU. The position U bragging rights and branding is paramount, right? RBU, DBU, WRU, QBU. We don't really say OLU, though I'm sure that there are some Georgia fans, Oklahoma fans, Iowa fans want to jump into that one. I find it interesting to take a look at LBU because we're still like redefining what a linebacker is. I mean, Isaiah Simmons won the Butkus Award, and he's not really a linebacker to many people. For me, he's a destroyer of worlds. For other folks, he's positionless. At 6'4", about 230 pounds, he can play free safety, strong safety, Mike, Will, and Sam, and he can be a stand-up edge rusher for you. It's a really interesting look. I mean, even talking more about what safeties look like. Hell, Jacoby Stevens would come down and rush on third down. Same thing with Grant Delpit. It's interesting to take a look at what these different positions mean in this day and age. And really, we're talking about two positions now. We've kind of eliminated the Sam linebacker position like years ago. As a matter of fact, I wrote a piece about this because nickel defenses are base defenses now. You run with 5 DBs or some variation of it with your 2 inside linebackers, and the Mike and Will, for many people, are interchangeable but have some different responsibilities depending on your scheme and what you want to run out there as your front, whether it's odd or even, and how much an emphasis is put on trying to keep your linebackers clean versus making plays. And we've known that Gary Patterson's been running a 4-2-5 for like 30 years, and now everybody else is kind of catching up to what he's been doing as he's been killing people with it because that extra safety has been so beneficial because he can do whatever he wants with him. But I thought it was interesting to take a look at the way that Barton Simmons was choosing to identify the LBU characteristics. And spoiler, he has LSU at 1, Ohio State at 2, and Alabama at 3. And we can keep going, but I wanted to start with those 3 because he's taking into account the more recent look, right? Taking the past NFL drafts, the past 5 NFL drafts, and assigning a point system. You get 7 points for a first-round draft pick at linebacker. You get 1 point for a 7th round, and you don't get any for undrafted prospects. And that's a really interesting way of looking at it and put a contemporary stamp on it. And what he found was LSU accumulated 35 points with 6 total picks, with Jacob Phillips, Devin White, Duke Riley, Kendall Beckwith among those guys. And then you got to take into account Patrick Queen. And depending on how you want to classify Caleb Von Chase, and he doesn't have him here, but I don't know, that's another position that some people would call outside linebacker, but really you're taking into account what the inside linebackers look like. And we know that Devin White was one of the best linebackers in football a couple of years ago, and the vaunted number 7 was across his chest. Like last year was across Grant Delpit's chest. This year it'll be across Jamar Chase's chest, and he is the reigning Biletnikoff Award winner. I found that to be interesting because Ohio State is next on this list, and they're a full 8 points behind. So you could even make an argument that they're a draft pick and a first-round draft pick and a 7th-round draft pick, so 2 picks behind when talking about this. But Malik Harrison going into the 3rd round was a quarterback, wide receiver, running back, linebacker, and safety, right, is ridiculous because he had over 1,100 yards passing, 900 yards rushing as a senior in high school. Then you're talking about Jerome Baker, Darren Lee, Joshua Perry, Raekwon McMillan going back the past 5 years. And what I find interesting and remarkable, quite honestly, about what Ohio State has done there is they get acclaim for LBU, and they get a claim for DBU as well. As a matter of fact, we can make an argument that the weakest position for Ohio State over the past 7 years has been quarterback, right? Even as they won national championships with Cardale Jones and Braxton Miller and JT Barrett, all kind of interchangeable in there. And Braxton Miller is also the last guy to take an L to Michigan, but that's something else entirely because that offense that they ran, basketball on grass, is not necessarily the great predictor of success for quarterbacks in the NFL. But if you're looking at defensive backs, hell, they had 7 first-rounders in the last 5 years. So they get a claim to LBU, even as in this point system, it would go to LSU outright as a title. But I think that when you talk about the defense and how good Ohio State has been over the past couple of years at putting guys into the NFL, you take a look at how they performed in 2018 when they were playing on Shiano difficulty. It's remarkable to think about how good they have been and how much better they can be in the coming years because they have an identity. Jeff Hafley gave them one. They're getting back to that with Kerry Combs. And Al Washington has been ridiculously awesome in his recruiting here of late. Add in there what Larry Johnson Sr. has been doing for years, and you can see how that defense might carry them to, I think, a national title berth against an Alabama. I'm still picking Alabama to win the national championship because I have no reason to pick against it just yet, though Ohio State would be my next pick there ahead of Clemson, right? And then there's Alabama at 25 points, just 2 points behind Ohio State with 5 draft picks. It's just about where those guys got drafted. And you include in here Dylan Moses and Christian Harris, along with Rashaan Evans, Reuben Foster, and Reggie Ragland to go with Mac Wilson and Sean Dion Hamilton. I think Christian Miller is fascinating here, but I think that, Christian Harris is fascinating here, but Reuben Foster, I think, wow, what if that dude would have actually turned out to be the monster that we all thought he was going to be? Same thing, Reggie Ragland still can be, I guess. And then Dylan Moses, likely going to be taken with a first-round pick in 2021. It's going to add to this. And then Alabama's going to have yet another tie to being able to, wait, we put great defenses out there every single year, guys. I mean, what gives here? And you're looking at the defensive backs, Trayvon Diggs, Patrick Surtain Jr., and those are just the guys that were in last year's defensive backfield. Add in there what Shane Lee might end up being, what Christian Miller might end up being, right? Or in the NFL, and then Christian Harris might end up being a few years later. I really am interested as to how Terrell Lewis actually pans out. Though I got to give it up on this Rashaan Evans bit because I didn't think that he was going to pan out to be a first rounder. Boy, was I wrong. And I thought that the rest of this list is kind of how you would expect, right? Florida at 4 with 19 points. Michigan tied for 5th with Clemson. Clemson being on this list is still remarkable because Clemson shouldn't be on any of these lists. It's new money. And then your group of 5 programs, of course, you're looking at Boise State, right? They get to claim, among others, Leighton Vander Esch, who was a walk-on that the Cowboys kind of took and put him next to Jalen Smith, and you've seen what kind of a defense the Dallas Cowboys have put together. But the notion of LBU, I think, is one that's ever evolving as we continue to figure out what middle linebacker will linebacker look like and what the kind of players are that do it. And usually they're quarterbacks on the defense and they're also quarterbacks in high school, right? Looking at guys that are going to inherit that title at some point, like Drew Sanders, he's an all-around athlete that Nick Saban's just going to ask to be a great linebacker outside, I believe, but, we'll see. If injuries happen, you never can tell with this stuff because Terrell Lewis played some snaps at inside linebacker against LSU, and most people tell you he's an outside linebacker by trade. Same thing with a couple of, Isaiah Simmons as a cure-all and a Band-Aid for everything that Brent Venables wanted to do is also a really good look. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.